using ChatGPT, you're not developing those executive function skills. ChatGPT is doing that. So
Right.
on one hand, there's no practice to start developing those skills. On the other hand, if a child is really stuck and feels terrible about themselves and can't move forward, this is a really good way to help them move forward. So I would say certainly the adults that I coach, they use ChatGPT. I think that's fine.
Hi, it's Kate from ADHDkidscanthrive.com. Before we start, I want to address the fact that I know how overwhelming it can feel to parent a child with ADHD. The questions, the challenges, the desires to give your child the best possible chance to thrive is a lot to carry for parents. That's why I want to share my journey with you through my book, How We Roll: A Parent's Journey on Raising a Child with ADHD. I've had the privilege of helping many parents like you navigate the journey of raising a child with ADHD. We've worked together to create brighter paths. All my experiences, practical tips, heartfelt insights are narrowed down into this book. To help you get started, I've made the first 3 chapters of the book available to you for free. You can check out through the link in the show notes below. Hi, it's Kate Brownfield from ADHDkidscanthrive.com. I am your host of the ADHD Kids Can Thrive podcast. I'm an ADHD parent coach and author as well. Okay, let's get started. Today, I am very honored to be joined by McKeon. She's an executive coach, ADHD coach, academic coach for kids, young adults, and parents. She's located in Danville, California. I'm very honored to have her here today. We're going to talk about how executive functioning affects kids in academics, but especially when it comes to math and writing. So please enjoy our conversation. Thank you again. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Good. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Michelle is an ADHD parent coach and executive functioning coach and works with both parents and kids. Right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Adults and kids. So let's just get started a little bit about like kind of your journey of how you have like what you do and how you've come into helping kids and parents who are struggling with executive functioning.
Sure. I'd have to say it started with my own child, which is a typical story. My own son struggled a lot with executive functioning in school, not really knowing what it was. It was years until somebody said, I think this is executive functioning, was tested several times. And so I heard that word and knew it was a thing when my son was very little. It inspired me to start working with kids who are struggling in school. So I became a math tutor and I worked for years doing that. And I was coming across kids who had this thing called ADHD. Their parents would say, my child has ADHD. And I would notice that the way I was teaching math to them was not helping them and it was not working. And I would see a different type of struggle than with my neurotypical students. And it really stuck with me that I could not help them the way I was working.
Okay.
And I ended up referring a couple of students years and years ago to other specialists. And I thought, I can't help kids unless I really understand what's going on. And it broke my heart what I was seeing. So I decided to just dive in and learn everything I could about executive functioning and ADHD. And that eventually led me to being an ADHD life coach.
Okay. With that, so your son, though, had struggled with executive functioning, but not the ADHD piece?
Who was not diagnosed at that time with ADHD.
Yeah, okay. Because you can struggle with executive functioning and not have ADHD,
That's right.
right?
Right, or depending on what diagnosis, who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
it is ADHD, but it can be so nebulous that in the end, it's kids who need help with these skills, these executive skills.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so I thought it would be interesting to have you join us for this episode to really talk about like how executive functioning affects kids in the classroom with their academics.
Yes.
And I think as parents, we kind of get lost in that. Again, thinking ADHD is just having a hard time focusing and putting your attention on something, but it's deeper than that. And it really shows up in trying to do their schoolwork. It can.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I wanted you to enlighten us
Okay.
more about how executive functioning shows up. I thought, let's take the subject of math
Okay.
and how math and kids who are showing signs of struggling with executive functioning, that combo can be really challenging for kids.
Absolutely.
And so what is it about math that can make it hard?
Well, math is the whole gamut of executive functioning. There's a lot of planning and organization in math. Planning and organization on the page, planning and organizing in the mind, a lot of working memory. So holding on to what was just solved for the next step, analyzing and working memory. And all of these are executive functions that we rely on to do math problems, in addition to emotional regulation, which I think is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Because math is scary, can be very scary when all of those pieces are not fitting into place. What comes is anxiety on top of that, and then nothing. The brain is not do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
It shuts down. And then you get these messages as I'm not good at math.
Right.
I'm horrible at math. This is
Yeah.
never going to work.
And before I learned all about ADHD, what I was seeing with students with math was they were good at math. They could do it. We would do a problem, they'd zip through it. And I thought, they have a math brain. I can see it. I've worked with enough students now where I can see those students who have math sense. But then we would go to the next problem, which was just like the problem that we did. And it was like a whole new problem again.
Oh, really? Like they'd never seen it before.
Or they would struggle, or they would miss what we had just done.
Okay.
And I kept thinking, this is not math. This is something else. So math ability can be there, but it's all of those executive functions that don't allow that to shine.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So how does a parent kind of bridge that? So one thing I'm thinking of, like a parent with homework, okay, with math, right? You may say there's an expectation that your child just sits at their place for doing homework and just does it, right? Does the practice of the problems, but that can be challenging for them,
Absolutely.
for the child. So then it becomes like, why aren't they doing the homework? And
why don't they understand this? We've just done this a million times, and why are they still struggling with it? Yeah. I mean, with all the empathy in the world for parents, it's hard for parents who don't have ADHD, or even those that do, to realize that there are executive skills that are lagging here, and they really are having a hard time with this. So I would say with younger kids, especially, to gamify homework as much as possible, just make it fun. I remember doing problems with my son while he jumped on the trampoline, or while he rocked on this like pseudo skateboard that we had in the house. I think we at one point turned it into a game and had like little poster squares all over the floor. Just anything when they're younger to make it more fun.
okay.
Because that
And were
was-
you helping with too, maybe writing the math out, or just?
Sure, whatever they need. And even having somebody there with them so that they're not all alone
Yeah.
when they struggle helps.
Yeah.
And I should say compassionately and gently with them.
Yeah.
Not, "Why aren't you doing this? Don't you understand?" Because we can get in that mode of
We
worried.
just went over this. Yeah.
Just did it. What? Yeah, more just a pal next to them.
Okay, that's great advice to kind of look and be supportive
Yes.
to go through the steps. And so what would be what are the flags that you see in kids when math, like where is that breaking point where math is hard? Is it just when a kid shows resistance?
I
Is that the sign?
I would say not all kids will show extreme resistance, but keep an eye on their schoolwork and see, are they skipping a lot of problems and thinking that they're done? Are they really just racing through it and not really getting any of them right? And speak to the teachers if you're noticing that. And then, of course, when there's resistance, that's a sign
Yeah.
something's
Okay.
going on because kids, like Ross Green says, kids do well if they can.
Yeah.
So what's going on? Why are they struggling with this?
Okay.
Just to go back to your previous question, because I don't want to leave out the older kids, because the older kids, it's tougher in high school, the gamifying of math. What I would say is try to get accommodations where they don't have to do as much for homework and work with breaking it down into steps, just one step at a time, and get a note card accommodation. I always try to advocate for that. For like,
Okay. Writing formulas, that kind of thing.
yes, and even have an example like with the steps on it, so that
Okay.
their working memory is not so taxed. They won't remember. So that way they can do their homework with the note card so that they get used to using that note card as like security.
Yeah.
And I kind of frame it like your memory is just out here. It's just not in here, but it's here. So we'll use it like that.
You can reference your memory over here.
That's right.
Okay. And so as a parent, I think we get in this like sink or swim.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you say it's okay to kind of be a pal, be supportive, help your
Mhm.
child get through math.
Yeah.
What would be your advice for when a parent should seek outside support around?
That's a good question. If you as a parent are finding yourself becoming so frustrated and just not being able to regulate emotionally, which is completely understandable. But if you're finding that it's just becoming so much for you as a parent and you can't keep a lid on it or you can't keep that frustration down because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I would say seek outside help so that you can maintain that relationship with your child. I made the unfortunate mistake myself years and years ago of really pushing my son who was struggling with executive functioning and math. And years later, I found that he thought all of our relationship was about him doing well in school. And of course, that's never what I intended. But that is what can happen. We as parents get so worried, and we want to maintain that relationship with our children. So I would seek outside help if that's the case, or if your child is just pushing back so much. There's a natural development where kids need to separate from their parents and they will resist and they will resist parents in particular.
Yeah.
So when parents are seeing that, that's a good sign to seek outside help.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's good advice. Okay. The other subject I wanted to talk about was writing
Yes.
can be challenging for these kids with ADHD and executive functioning
Yes.
struggles. And I kind of want to just shine a light about what is it about writing
Mhm.
that is hard for these kids?
So many kids struggle with writing. Yes. Kids and adults, I have found. It is, again, it is planning, it's prioritizing, it's knowing what is important to say and what is not important to say. That's very difficult a child with ADHD? How do I prioritize all of these thoughts in my head about maybe they're writing about a book or something? I don't know. I don't know what goes first or second. I don't know the order. And then how do I plan out my paper? These are all executive function skills. And again, working memory is a big piece, and emotional regulation. So, and probably more than that. Self-awareness. I mean, they all come in. It's very hard to.
It all plays right into
all-
school.
yeah,
Yeah. And into academics.
absolutely. But I think with writing in particular, it becomes this overwhelming blob of, I don't know. And so a coach or a parent can help break it into pieces so it's not so overwhelming, and ask a lot of questions to help kids write their paper rather than writing it for them. Because I know as parents, like when it's the night before that paper is due and our kid is going to get an F, it's just so tempting. Let me just help you. Let me just edit this. Let me just, yeah, but that's our executive functions that are being improved, not theirs. So,
Right.
yeah,
When we're helping, that's so hard.
it is so hard.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot on this, but what is your thought about ChatGPT? I am hearing from
Yeah.
friends that schools are they kind of banished it, and then the kids were using it, and so now the schools are embracing it as a tool for kids to use in their writing or
Mhm.
research. Like
Right.
how it is the new, if I had struggled with executive functioning,
Right.
ChatGPT makes it really easy to just get the task done.
It does.
I guess if you know what you're supposed to request, what you want out of it. So you
Yeah.
still do need to have be able to put some order
Yes,
in your thinking to be able to get out of ChatGPT what you want.
that's a tough question because using ChatGPT, you're not developing those executive function skills. ChatGPT is doing that. So
Right.
on one hand, there's no practice to start developing those skills. On the other hand, if a child is really stuck and feels terrible about themselves and can't move forward, this is a really good way to help them move forward. So I would say certainly the adults that I coach, they use ChatGPT. I think that's fine.
For
But
their work life.
for their work life, yes, because some tasks are just so difficult for them.
Okay.
But when kids are developing, when their brains are developing, I would say, okay, yes, you can use ChatGPT, but I would monitor it somehow because you want those skills to develop too. And
Right.
then,
To have
oh,
them think about thinking.
yes, exactly. To have them think about thinking, to have them think about what do I need to do next?
Yeah.
What might be more important here? Like each step, just these little questions. What is the big point of my paper? That sort of thing. If they never ask those questions of themselves or somebody else does not ask those questions of them, they're not developing those skills. So I know it's kind of an unfair answer, but I would ride the fence, both, a little of
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. It's a challenge for this new generation. And as they get older, right, they have like high school, even probably junior high, they have access to this stuff,
That's right.
without mom and dad hovering and teachers hovering.
Yes. And
And they're clever. They know how to get to this stuff.
we can't control in the end what they decide to do.
Right.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure if I spoke to my son as a teenager that, don't you want to build those executive function skills? Like, no, I want to get my paper in. And this is
Right,
easy.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
But as parents, I think if we can be aware of kind of the importance of without getting too frustrated on the homework, kind
Right.
of just take a step back and see there's some value in kind of building these skills while they're still young will serve them later in life.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. And just, we talked about this a little bit with the math stuff too, but just like the flags that are seen. So like if your child was sitting at wherever they do their homework and they're having a hard time getting started, or they're not getting it all done, like what is a parent supposed to do in that instant?
Again,
Besides yell.
right.
Because yelling will only get you so far, or, setting consequences, whatever. Those don't work, right? With any of this. So it's like,
No, that's a good point. They don't, because it's not about bad behavior. It's about a skill that's not there or that needs to be improved.
yeah.
Yeah. Dysgraphia is often comes along with ADHD. So I would look out for that as well. If there's an extreme trouble with actually writing, that can really affect also the way a student thinks about writing. It's beyond the actual physically writing. So I would keep an eye out for that. Visual processing is also a big point with writing and reading. Auditory processing. So there's other things that might be coming into play there. So I would recommend testing.
Yeah. Okay. What's the visual? The visual is not like you're not seeing things as others see things.
The sensory integration, you're not taking in your visual field. It's not processing in the brain. Perhaps the brain is just not seeing all of it, not processing all of it. Yeah.
Okay. In a typical way. And the same, okay. And auditory is the opposite of that. Like you're not hearing it.
Right.
The input of sounds and all of that is different.
It's just, you're more in your own world and you're just not taking in your environment.
Yeah.
And that can affect writing. This was the case with my son, which is why I bring it up. So there's all sorts of things that could be going on. So I would recommend testing in addition to helping your child to see if there's something else. Then perhaps occupational therapy could help with those processing issues. And sitting with your child and making it a little more fun. What I do with students is we whiteboard it, like just ideas. Just like splatting paint on the wall, just doesn't matter what order, just get the ideas out, because kids with ADHD are going to have tons of ideas, very creative brains, right? So they're going to have lots to say. And then the coach or the parent can help organize that for them.
Yeah. Okay.
Where do you think this should go? What goes with what? Yeah.
How do we put this together? Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Michelle, as we wrap up, you've shared so much. What would be kind of your words of overall wisdom for parents who are on this journey? I think in this, like struggling with the academic piece for their child when they have the ADHD and maybe other things, it's not always just ADHD, but their executive functioning skills are really impacting them in their academic life.
Yes. I would say, and this might not be the expected response, but for parents to look at themselves first. That is essential, I think. And through working on themselves and helping stay even keel and working on whatever is coming up for them, that will help their child.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to reparent for my specific kids. What do they need from me? Not me as a parent. I'm the parent. I'm the boss. You need to do what I needed. It's the other way around. And that's not to say that it's so permissive and all that. No, the appropriate rules are there, but really doing your own soul searching, I would say. Yeah. My kids taught me how to be a parent. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.